This is my interview for my history class based upon my family tree. And this is my mom that I'll be interviewing. Uh, let's get it started. Let's see, first question happens to be, what are our oldest family memories that we have recorded?
We have a family Bible that is actually from, we believe, like the 1600s. It's bound in human skin and hair. Gross. But it has everybody and everything. And it has birth and death and weddings and um, some important events. So it's really cool and really revolting in the same breath.
Where was our family settled around the year 1922?
Whoa. Our family was actually not really settled in 1922 because your great great grandpa had smuggled over on a ship and settled in Iowa. And then he brought his family over little by little from Germany. And um, in 1922, he and his wife and one worker that was like family to him were on the last leg of a 3-year wagon train move from Iowa to Colorado. Um, so at that point, they were kind of homeless. They would travel in the summer and find a job for the winter and hole up for the winter and um, wait for better weather to continue. So in 1922, they were in the last bit of their trip and were excited about getting there and the prospect of signing for their share of 610 acres in what is now the Montezuma County Valley.
Nice. Let's see. What's the farthest back that we have recorded of family names?
1600s, 100% sure and accurate. There is some paperwork on earlier than that. That some documents like that are really difficult to verify for sure. Obviously.
Yeah, because half of them are destroyed by this point.
And a lot of them, you come from a lot of guys that were fighters and thank you, baby. So there was, of course, a large amount of them that were illiterate, which, of course, a lot of people were then.
But. Yeah, that's true. Where was my great granddad involved in the prohibition and why?
He was a little boy, and so because he was a little boy, he was used to help traffic illegal alcohol around the city. He actually had pockets sewn into the inside of his overalls so that he could carry several bottles without them clanking together and giving him away. And he hardly ever got stopped because he was a little boy. So he kept all the bootleggers safe by being this cute, doughy-eyed little boy and made them a lot of money by running it here and there for them.
True. See, what's the location and best description of our family heirlooms?
Family heirlooms?
Yeah.
I have a lot of them. And there's another that I need to pick up. I've got to get the desk from Kenny that your great grandpa made out of your great great grandpa made out of sagebrush before they dammed the Colorado, and the Shiprock area was actually lush and green. The sagebrush was so big that you could actually take the sagebrush and cut it and plane it into lumber. So that pretty desk is actually all made out of sagebrush, and it's made without screws or nails. And then there's also the big buffet that's Kenny's house. It used to be Grandma's house. Um, was actually brought over eventually from the old country from um, Germany, and after uh, your great great grandpa, you know, smuggled himself and his family over here. And other stuff, I mean, we've got all kinds of small heirlooms that are priceless to us, but probably wouldn't mean anything to other folks.
Makes sense. Weren't there several parts of our family that were actually royalty?
Our family, the best way to explain it is almost kind of like the Braveheart thing. We go back to as close to royalty as there was in Ireland. They're all bloody crazy, so who knows? And then on the other side in England and stuff, yes, we did. And then, of course, the Roosevelts and Kennedys and all those crazy. Don't want to say they're royalty, but they were almost in a way America's royalty.
Mm-hmm.
On Grandpa's side, we go back to a lot of their families. So very diverse between my father and my mother's side of the family, but they do both go back to royalty way back when.
Didn't some of our family know a lot of the outlaws? Especially the famous ones?
Yes. Billy the Kid, Jesse James, Sundance Kid. A lot of these guys our family knew just because of where they were at, where they lived. McElmo Canyon was used by a lot of rustlers and outlaws and stuff, and you got to remember that a lot of the outlaws were just good people who never set out to originally be anything other than just good people. The James brothers, they were rebellious boys, but they really didn't have any other aspirations before the railroad destroyed their ability to be boys who were a little rebellious, but they were good farm kids that I think originally their plan was just to be good farm men. Billy the Kid had a rough childhood, finally started to get things sorted out, and because of the events that happened and his benefactor being killed the way he was, turned him into the outlaw that he became. So yes, our family's lives were deeply entangled with some of these guys. Not to mention that, like, the Sundance Kid was just trying to get the money back that they stole from him. He needed to be able to feed his family through the winter. It wasn't anybody started out or set out to be that kind of lifestyle. So, um, the famous sheriff, I have to ask your granddad, I can't think of what his name is, um, that your great grandpa worked with was actually wanted in several states, but he was probably one of the most effective sheriffs, and he really tamed a deadly town, a deadly area, where everybody got shot and murdered, and um, brought in a lot of wanted guys. But in a way, he was wanted too. So I think, you look at the word outlaw, and there are some guys that was what they set out to do with their life. But there was a lot of the outlaws that didn't set out to be that way. And our family knew a lot of them before they became outlaws. And some of them after they become outlaws, but even though they were outlaws, they were still good at heart.
Weren't several of our factions of family quite rich, and do you know how they got their riches?
Yes. The Kingsleys were very well to do. Like Kenneth Kingsley, mid 1800s, and we have probably 70 or 80 photos of the man doing everything under the sun. And, photos were not cheap, and they weren't something that was just thrown around at that point. And we have piles of them, which is amazing and it's awesome. But they were very well to do. Your Mimi's family was never really well to do. Now, granted, her mom was the first female FBI agent, and of course, Mimi worked in the underground of the Pentagon for the CIA, and so in that way, they have a very rich family history, just in the rich fullness of it, but monetarily, not so much. And Grandpa, that was one of the things he always loved, is that he could brag about, being related to the Kennedys and everything else, and the money that came with it. Even though he was never super well off himself, being very much of a drinking man, even though he was part of the CIA, and he did work in the underground levels of the Pentagon. He drank way, way, way too much, and I think squandered a lot of their finances.
That's too bad.
Life happens. It's easy for us to look back now and say, oh, goodness, that wasn't the right choice.
Yeah, but at the time, sometimes decisions are made and you just got it wrong. Haven't many of our family members served for the military? And do you happen to know how many years back?
So on both sides of the family, there has been lots and lots of military. Like the reason that your great grandpa stowed away on a ship is he was about to turn 15. And at 15, you were required to join the Kaiser's army. And so his older brothers, who were already in the army, said, get out while you can. And they did everything they could to help him get to the right people, to get over the wall. And then once he got over the wall, to get to a ship, get on the ship, and make it to America. He did have older sisters. They had children and everything. So it was impossible for them to come at that time. Um, but then your great grandpa, uh, he served, he actually, your grandpa was born on the Air Force Base in Amarillo, Texas in 1944, um, because your great grandpa was an officer, and he was a very highly revered officer, and uh, he taught all the guys airplane mechanics. And not only did our U.S. government have him teach them airplane mechanics, he had him teach them also um, how to repair things when things went wrong. We didn't have a nice big tool set and everything else to um, fix it for you. Um, Mimi's family had some various military, back to having some Italian military. Um, your great grandpa on my dad's side goes back to a lot of Black Irish. And the Black Irish were basically the protectors of Ireland in a way. Um, they could be fairly ruthless, but they weren't the farmer Irish. They were more the fighters. Uh, so there was military from way back when with them until more recent. Of course, your granddad. I mean, the government has folders and folders and folders on him, um, and several of your uncles have military background. Um, I'm trying to think of anybody else super specific, but I can't think of anything.
It's definitely everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere for sure. Last question I have is it true that our family members have moved all over the world a lot?
Yes. Um, Cousin Sue traveled with the um, Smithsonian exhibit for Ramesses. So when I was a little kid and I'm so fascinated with mummies, she was going all around the world and she'd send me a postcard from all these new fantastic places, and I have a box somewhere of them. Um, I was so excited, and it's so cool, and you know, getting to see the exhibit and go behind the scenes was fantastic. Of course, your granddad's been everywhere. Um, your uncles, especially all the ones that have served, have been all over. Mimi and her sister, before her sister started experiencing stronger mental issues, um, were both models and traveled to Paris and to Japan and Australia and just all over. Your Nana has traveled all over and was on a special crew over a span of, I don't know, 12 to 15 years, something like that, where they did cleanup on not only the concentration camps that we know and that are recorded, but a multitude of additional areas that were exposed. So she spent a vast amount of those years um, being in Germany. Um, your Uncle Cliff was stationed in Germany, and so he was there for several years.
Well, thank you for letting me interview Mom. I think I got everything that I needed here, and really appreciate you guys for staying and doing this interview with us.
Thank you.
Have a good one, guys.